Ladies and gentlemen, this is the City of Waverly, Iowa, a regular meeting of the City Council. We are meeting on Monday, May 6th, 2024 at 7 o'clock. Thank you everybody for attending. Thank you city staff for giving up your evenings. Thank you for citizens who are here, even the high school student here against his choice. And thank you for everyone who's joining us electronically. This meeting is now called to order. I'd like to lament that we are down by 2 tonight. Councilperson Wolff is feeling under the weather, and Councilperson Birgen is teaching a class in Germany. But we will go forward anyway if you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, you have in front of you an agenda. I would be welcomed approval of.
I will move approval of the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? You appear ready to vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That passed unanimously. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. These are the minutes from April 15th, the regular meeting, and again, the minutes of April 22nd, which was a study session. Is there a motion to approve these 2 sets?
I'll move approval of the minutes as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That passed unanimously. Thank you very much. I'd like to take a moment to welcome our guest council member for May, and that will be Brady Werger. Brady, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, I'm Brady Werger. I'm a citizen here that lives in Waverly. I'm currently employed within the city of Waverly at the Waverly Golf Course, also employed at Trinity United Methodist Church, and currently serve on the Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council, where I serve as chair.
Thank you very much for being here. We look forward to hearing your comments at the end of tonight. Council, I would like to offer a proclamation. Whereas World Migratory Bird Day will be observed on the 11th day of May 2024 during spring migration, and on the 12th day of October 2024 during fall migration, and whereas this year's theme, Insects Protect Birds, encourages us to learn more about how migratory birds make use of insects and how insects are essential sources of energy for many migratory bird species. And whereas migratory birds and their habitats are declining throughout the Americas due to the growing number of threats on their migration routes and in both their summer and winter homes, and whereas public awareness and concern are crucial components of migratory bird conservation, and whereas since 1993, World Migration Bird Day celebrations have become a primary vehicle for focusing public attention on the nearly 350 species that travel between nesting habitats in our communities and throughout North America and their wintering grounds in South and Central America, the Caribbean, and the Southern United States. And whereas Waverly and its surrounding area is home to a diverse array of natural areas and grasslands that are crucial sites for insects that are essential nourishment for migratory birds, and therefore, Mark A. Anderson, Mayor, and the City Council of the City of Waverly, Iowa, do hereby proclaim May 11, 2024, and again October 12, 2024, both as World Migratory Bird Day. As a proclamation presented to you, can I have a motion for approval?
Move approval of the proclamation as read by the mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Everybody's in favor of birds? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That passed unanimously. This is now the date, time, and place for a public hearing under the authority of Iowa Code Section 354.23, approving and authorizing the vacation of certain parcels that have been conveyed or dedicated to the City of Waverly, which are deemed to be of no benefit to the City of Waverly, and authorizing the conveyance of said parcels to the adjoining property owners identified as set forth in Exhibit A as the vacating instrument. The mayor and city council will entertain any comments. After all comments, the hearing will be declared closed, and the following action will be considered. City Clerk, have you received any written or oral comments?
I have received one written comment from Henry and Paige Yoder in opposition of this resolution.
Council, there was some sort of glitch in the technology, and this should have come to you several days ago, and it did not. And so it arrived to you about 2 o'clock this afternoon. It is a lengthy and a fairly detailed document. I bring to you my concern that you've not had time to read it, consider it, or speak to your constituents that would be affected by it. So I bring that as a concern. Audience, are there any public comments? I see no one rising. So I will close the public hearing. This hearing is closed. Council, I'm going to ask you for a motion, and I'm going to very gently remind you that a motion to table is not outside your purview.
I would make a motion to table this until we can gather more information based upon what we received this afternoon. I agree it was lengthy and detailed and brought to my mind some things that I hadn't really thought about before, and I'd like a little more time to explore that.
Thank you. Is there a second for a motion? Thank you. That was Councilman Jones. Is there any more discussion?
I have one question, just so that I know the answer to this before we move on to another week, and that is, I've noticed some of these vacations, and when I saw first that we were talking about vacations,
Yeah.
I thought we were all going to go to the Bahamas together, but unfortunately it's something much different from that. Some of these are properties that appears that we're simply vacating a right-of-way. So for example, let me find one here, I tabbed a couple of these. We're not actually transferring the property to another owner, but we're simply vacating what the current map shows the property was to be used for. So for example, number 24, you can look at that. I think that's a pretty good example. There's obviously two streets, 3rd Avenue Northwest and 2nd Avenue Northwest, that continue on into Coleman Park that apparently are still platted as streets. Is the intention just to, whatever the term is, remove that platting so that those streets are no longer showing up as streets, even though they're not streets? Is that what we're doing with those?
I believe so. I believe so. There's a very interesting question about if we vacate and then the two neighbors have to agree what to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to vacate before we have a written agreement in place? Or are we setting up for a neighborhood fight?
Right. And I understand that, but in this particular situation, all the property surrounding it is all owned by the city of Waverly. So we're not dealing with utility easements or driveways or anything like that. It's just simply these spaces, and there's several of them in here. I started tabbing a bunch of them. I got to about 6 or 7, and I was running out of tab paper, so I quit. But, these are situations where they're showing up as streets or alleys. They're clearly not streets or alleys, but they are surrounded by City of Waverly property. So we're not actually deeding this money or considering to deed this money to a third party. We're just saying, okay, let's erase these streets and alleys so they don't show up here anymore. Is that,
Yeah.
I know that's not the technical name for it, but.
I think in some cases, we are surrendering land to other people. In some cases, we're surrendering to ourselves. But this is a lot of material. I'd propose putting this off, what do you think, 2 weeks or so? Let's come back to
I
that.
haven't had a chance to read the email.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. One question, is this from Paige, who works here at the city?
It is,
And this
sir.
is from her as a private citizen?
Yes.
Not as an employee? Okay. My other question is, have all the property owners, so when there is a situation that it's a private property owner adjacently, have they all been talked to about this? And do they
Bill?
want
I've
to?
communicated with all of the people, the 67 out of the 70 that actually requested they be deeded the property, have been talked to, have been discussed with. Sometimes they just said, we'll do it. They send me an email, go ahead and give it to me. If they have questions, we answered them. Answered them by email, I answered my phone.
Okay.
Answered them in person. And every single person who said yes gave me some kind of written or oral permission to do it.
But that's not, is there some way that could be notated on the, because I wasn't sure if anybody had been talked to
Yeah.
from the material we
We sent
got.
letters out to everybody, and like I said, we kept track on a different spreadsheet, so that I could keep track of those things.
Was there anybody who didn't want the property adjacent?
3.
Could you,
Well, actually, only one one that said they did not want it, one person that didn't respond, and the other person that didn't respond.
okay, so if we end up tabling it, could you send us that list so we know who doesn't want to
The 3
participate?
people? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of on the
Was it in there?
documents. You
Oh, okay.
can tell sort of the ones that said the city was,
Yeah, it's
it would be
number 20,
Yeah. Where does it
not
say
20,
that they want?
19.
Oh, okay.
50,
So like on 29, no conveyance means they,
no conveyance was actually the river.
oh, okay.
Because
So
they showed the right of way going
where is
across.
it listed who did not want to maintain the property adjacent?
I don't have it listed because I only had 3 that didn't do it.
Okay, so for the 3 that didn't want it, are we still going to do it?
Well,
Or
no,
then what happens?
what we're going to do is we're going to retain it. So we're going from the experience that Waterloo did when they did this. They tried to do the same thing with their alleyways and street right-of-ways that they didn't want to show on Beacon anymore as street right-of-ways, or people could say, hey, I want to drive down that because it's a right-of-way. If they didn't have permission to deed it to them or convey it to them, the county put it in the name of the city. And then the city can later convey it to the adjoining owner if they choose to do so. Especially for the 2 alley parcels. That one was an alley parcel that the owner owned one half of it, or one side of it, and on the other side of it is a City of Waverly flood buyout lot, and they use it they have a lease on it. So basically they control both sides of it, and I never got that person to respond to us. We've sent out multiple letters. And we found out that the owner was actually living in Kansas and that they're not registered for a rental property. One other one was one of the properties behind Life Church up on top, the alley up there. And they just chose not to do it because the backside of their property was basically, straight up and down. There wasn't any value to have it. So they just chose not to accept it. And then the one from the Oders, the rental property.
So I was reading through the letter here that Paige and her husband sent out. It looks like a lot of the concerns they had was with situations where the retained easement maybe wasn't defined as well as she thought it should have been, and the situations where there were garages, two garages, that people were using that alley to access the garages, and what kind of discussions there were on who was going to maintain that property once the city no longer did, who was going to clean the snow off, and that if that was, the owners would have to fight that out among themselves, which I guess would be the understanding what would happen.
And I don't believe that all those supposed alleys that are basically common driveways are being maintained on a regular basis. The city may have been asked to do some things sometimes. And I know there were some questions raised in the past about when you're getting into an alley that's 8 to 10 foot wide and you're trying to bring in heavy equipment to shovel snow, that kind of thing. It really wasn't the right thing for those kinds of those kinds of driveways. And I know they did put gravel from time to time. And what we did with each one of these people we told them that we bring one more loads of gravel to help out with before we put them on their way with doing it themselves. And a lot of them, I think, do shovel the snow themselves, and they don't wait for the city to do it.
Well, those are probably
Low priority.
priority
Right,
items.
because
so-
they're just dealing with basically driveways. With the pictures that you see, they're mostly driveways
Yeah.
that are just used jointly.
Well, I don't have a problem with tabling this, or technically it would be postponing it till the next meeting. Tabling it, you take it off the table at the same meeting, but that, be that as it may,
We can't do that in 2 weeks, though. We have to then publish notice again for the public hearing.
yeah, so we would have to.
No,
start
we've
that
held a
process
public
over.
meeting, and the public meeting's closed. We can postpone
Okay.
voting on the public meeting,
Okay.
Okay.
so we don't need to repost, I believe.
I think it's correct.
I'll
Well, I
check
guess
it out.
my opinion is I don't want to force these properties down somebody's throat, but if somebody's okay with having them, and they got to work out who's going to clean off the snow, that's between them. As far as I'm concerned, we can let the property go, so.
I know one of the concerns that they had was, I think they really wanted to help out more with people that were, what they could do with it in the future. I mean, we've told some of those people that, and we're able to do that at any time. Like the multi-lot agreement is a great way to combine the two lots together without having to do a survey. It's one document that gets recorded. And we have people to do that all the time. We also have people that have gotten half of the alley in the past, and they just show it on the same parcel as the house. But then I've also seen it where they show two parcels. And so it's not perfectly done that way, but in terms of, some of the alleys are on the back end of the lot, and there's nothing in them. I mean, that's the Moody alleys that we did back in 14 to start with, and then we're finishing them up this time. And others are in the same situation. They're between 2 yards, basically, and there's nothing in there. The ones that had easements, or that had utilities, generally it was either light poles that are where they are, or there could be a water main, or there could be a sewer, or storm sewer main. And those are easily identified, and you're able to use the surface when you do that, and even put concrete over something like that, so you could repair it afterwards if you had to. So it doesn't prevent you from using, it has to be okayed with the Public Works and what will, because if you had an alley there, you'd have a street across, or you'd have a right-of-way across that.
So if the property owners take over this little strip of whatever it is, and the city needs to get in there, the utility company needs to get in there, then they have to give right-of-way to the city for
Yes.
that work?
Yes. I mean, that's why we reserved the
Yeah,
easement.
easement. okay.
And the easement was intended to be the entire width of whatever side that the people own. So it wasn't, sometimes the electrical are on the one side of the center line, and sometimes other things are on the other side. It depends on where they put them in the first place. Most of these were backed up to the waterway, the dry run, and so they probably never had a through alley
Right.
at any point in time. They were just the access to the backyards of these homes, and where they put most of their
And-
garages.
Well, and if I recall, numbers like 3 through 9, that area just off Adams Parkway, we kind of already did a partial on some of those, and that was because, if I remember correctly, one of the homeowners there, Pete, you can correct me maybe, but they had a shed, or wanted to build a shed that was gonna be over the easement, but if they didn't have the easement, setbacks would have been just fine, and so we went through and looked at it and said, oh, that was theoretically supposed to be an alley, but it's not really there, and there were already people that had sheds over, and so to try to clean that up, we already gave some of those easements back, and some people just didn't want them at that
Right.
time, and so that's why we've got this little checkerboard kind of
And we
on
did-
those lots.
We did charge, I think, $35 at the time, because that was the fees to kind of prepare and put it, record it. This time, we can record the 5-page spreadsheet, and it will do all the transfers out of that spreadsheet.
We're taking care of that cost for the
Yeah, because
property owners.
it's not
that are-
a major cost to do that. And so we're doing all the work to prepare it and have it go through.
And so it'll probably, some of these easements may very well bring other property owners into compliance with setbacks based.
There's
They're
some.
not even really realizing where they put it, thinking, I've got plenty of room here. There's nothing going through the middle, it's, you know.
There's a lot of homes and garages that are pretty close to the line of the actual right-of-way of the alley. So I know that there was a concern about helping people. I mean, that was the concern that, I know that I saw in a lot of this, was how do we give them information and how do we help them with that, which we still can. I mean, I know that there's several of them that said, we work good together, we got it figured out, and we're okay. Some of them didn't really even, they said, okay, that's fine, we want our half, but we'll just keep sharing for sure. And those are things that kind of things that I heard from people. I don't like to negotiate agreements with people, I mean, how they might do it, or write them up for them. I mean, I don't think that's my role as a city attorney. I know that they can get that done, and that would be a cost if they did that, but it's also maybe somebody's doing every other time, or whenever they can, they're just kind of doing their share. I know there's at least one that said, I do the lady across the alleys do it every time, and they can be part of the driveway. So I mean, there was those kinds of things. So they've kind of worked that out a lot with some of these folks. There's 7 of those situations, I think. So there's 14 properties that are relevant to that. I know the one behind Life Church, it's pretty, there's a little bit of a level place where you can drive around behind, because they couldn't come from the top of because there's a big drop off there. So to get to the back end, they have to go around, kind of get in from the sides if they want to get into the backyard to do things. And they know where the power's in the north half, and that's why we just left the south half. It's really kind of it's really slanted. And we just wanted to maintain that because nobody else would really want that piece anyway. And that's really to help the church if they ever decide that they want to do something else to keep the land from sloughing down the hill, that kind of thing. Because I was concerned about that several years ago, and they asked us if they could buy it or acquire it. And we didn't do it at that time, or at least maybe they decided not to do it. But, so we just wanted to take away these phantom right-of-ways, now that you can see Beacon, and you can see, why are those there and why are they still there? So that's what most of it is really being concerned about everybody understanding. But I think she's got good knowledge about what she can do to help them through it too, even after I'm gone. But I've actually had those conversations with some of the folks.
So what level of preservation of those conversations do you have to have? Somewhere in writing that you've had those conversations with people?
I made notes and I
That's
kept
my
my
question,
emails.
because we're formally transferring land, right?
Yep.
And so how are you gonna,
I either have a letter or an email, or I made notes in my spreadsheet.
does that need to be included formally in our documents for this business? Because we didn't know any of that existed.
A lot of
I
people
guess is
sent
my
letters
point.
and sent emails, but others, just came in and said, yep, I'm good. I mean, I probably could have had a form, I made everybody sign, and I didn't do that. So I figured people are accepting a deed. They asked me, they said they would. If anybody came back and said they didn't want it, I suppose we could let them deed it back to us, if that situation, because I don't want to have a fight with somebody about that.
I think my concern that came to light as I was reading some of the questions that were raised was just more so looking toward the future. So when these properties change hands, or whatever else might happen in the future, that there's not really clearly delineated documentation about what the agreement is or what the ramifications of the agreement are. And that was my concern, that
But
I feel like I need to know more about.
It's sort of buyer beware type of thing, because if you're going to see that you have half an alley and you can look at it and see where the line is. I mean, I've been doing this for 41 years, and in Iowa City, there's a lot of these, a ton of these. And people got used to that sharing of that driveway to get to the garages in the back when you have these narrow lots. And it's very commonly done this way. Every county will tell you that they have a lot of these kind of parcels, because a lot of them were platted and they never did alleys at all. They were just there in the middle of that block. We have streets that run into the river because they didn't know where they're gonna put bridges. We have some of those kinds of things. So we don't like those yellow right-of-ways across the parks. It just doesn't, you know,
I
it's
think
confusing.
that's like a separate issue, right? I mean, the city giving
Yeah,
the city
yeah.
land
Yeah.
and saying, okay, this street doesn't exist because it obviously doesn't exist. That's a whole different issue
Yeah,
than property owners, private property owners taking over a piece of property, and then what does happen then? If you move, and how do they have record of what the agreement was?
They don't have, they wouldn't have, they don't, they can give the record, or they can give the, they can tell them what the agreement is if they don't have a lot of them don't have written agreements. I mean, and you might want to have one, you just have to get one with somebody else and have it done. If we're going to expect that before we give it to them, I mean, if they accept it, they know that they have to have an agreement with their neighbor to how it's going to be dealt with in the future.
If it pleases the council, can we take a breath and see if our Director of Public Works has anything to add about the maintenance? How does this affect you, Justin?
Some of the areas that there is storm sewer, sanitary, and there is some access concerns that we need to be able to get there and maintain them. As long as the utility easements are upheld, it's not an issue. As in any other utility easement we have on areas like this. We do maintain, we do plow a lot of these alleyways, so I'm for, removing these if they want to take them over. Because there is a lot of maintenance associated with those, because they do get done later on after a snowstorm, and we've received a handful of complaints that, they're not timely, but they are at lower end of the scale we've done.
So who will be doing that now? The property owner is going to somehow plow the alley?
Yeah, it'll be the property owner. And some of these they are difficult because they are narrow, they're small, there's a lot of risk in there. We've had damages, so some of these will be very good to get rid of. Anytime you're going towards private property like that, it's a good idea not to go in there with our equipment.
Okay, I've got a motion to postpone and a second. Is there more discussion?
I just think it would be helpful when the memo comes out that we know stuff like that, right? That we have a context to know which of these parcels does Public Works think good idea, which part are they concerned about, and then what documentation. I mean, I come from a world where if it's not written down somewhere, it doesn't exist. That's what lawyers tell doctors, right? So, I think that if you have this information someplace, right, that everybody can access other than your email account, I think that would be helpful, because you're going to retire and go away, and I don't know what's going to happen to your emails, but.
So if you're saying that I should have, that I should get some kind of written documentation from everybody?
Just a little explanation, right? You gave us a chart, but I can't tell from the chart if those people are aware that they got talked to.
I think there's only seven alleys that have that situation, so there's 14 properties.
Okay,
Or there'd be 13 properties, because the one person is, the city's the other half, or the other side. And the rest of them are in different situations. There's a variety of situations that we've are trying to address, whether it be Wartburg College or Nestle or the streets that we're vacating, alleys that never ever were developed, that we can get off the books and give to an adjoining owner. I know there's some concerns about certain ones, the River Park Drive. What we discovered when I did research on that one is the city or the county was showing it as a city property, a city right-of-way. And the research I did found that the city had conveyed it to Keith Schultz back in the 90s. And when he developed that cul-de-sac and those buildings, and then sold it to subsequent people, they excluded the cul-de-sac, and they excluded the little alley on the bottom. And it was, and actually the city has deeds that said that they gave it to Keith Schultz, that they conveyed it to them. Well, knowing that Keith's estate can't be reopened, and we're gonna have an issue we thought we'd help them by basically saying the city's vacating any right that we have to it, and giving them this conveyance by quitclaim deed that says, it gives them color of title to 10 or 20 years from now have title to that property, so that they can own the property that they really should own. So that was one of those help on ones. I know there's the one that the house that the city used to own by the Green Bridge. And that was one of those that it had a set of lots like 1 through 8 coming down to the river. And then the last part of the lot, it said, was conveyed separately, but it said subject to a easement across the north 15 feet for access by the person to the east. I have never found anything that said that the city ever accepted that as an alley. It just got stuck as an alley, which is what, when he sold it to her, we told her that. And she's been working with the neighbor next door. I just wanted to confirm that in writing so that that could be there for them in the future.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm opposed to this.
Yeah.
I think this is fine. I'm just saying that it would be nice to make sure that this information is someplace, because I know where people are digging around looking in city files or whatever, and it's a waste of time to do that. If you can just put it someplace where it's accessible and people have the context, that's all I'm saying. And I didn't get to read the email before this meeting because I worked till 10 to 7, so I'm in favor of tabling it.
Yeah, the topic is to table, postpone, sorry, to postpone. Is there any more discussion on that? That's your motion.
I wouldn't be opposed to going forward with this, but I know there are others that have concerns, so they would like to read through the material first, so I would favor postponing.
Postpone 2 weeks?
Do we have to start, what's the process then? We have to have another public hearing and start all over again?
I don't believe so, because we've had a public meeting opened, no discussion closed.
I think you're right.
So we're postponing the vote on what we've heard from the public meeting.
Gotcha.
Establish a date though.
Yeah, 2 weeks,
May 20th.
May 20. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? To item G, this is public comments for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to speak to any topic which is not on the agenda? I see no one rising. The consent calendar, item H. You got quite a few items in front of you, council. There are 7 of them. And if there are any questions or discussion, now's the time. Otherwise, I'd receive a motion.
I have a question on item 5 on the airport. Is that the final? It talks about the closeout? Or is there gonna be another bill for 1,042?
I believe that's the one that has the closeout left. 1,042 for the finalized. The project's not finalized yet. It's actually, we're waiting for the C to take over.
Okay.
So they visited the site last week and they have another time to come up and they got a little bit of follow-up with that.
Okay, I ruled myself out of order. We should have had a motion first. Motion to accept the consent calendar.
I'll move that we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Second.
Any other discussion or questions of any kind? I hear none. This is a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That passed unanimously. We're on to regular business. We'll be at item number 1. If there's anyone who wants to speak on tonight's regular business, please come forward before that item comes up. Stand by the microphone so I know that you want to address the council. So, item number 1, this is the first reading of ordinance 1144, an ordinance repealing chapter 58, taxi cabs and limousines of the Waverly Municipal Code. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of the first reading of ordinance 1144, an ordinance repealing chapter 58, taxi cabs and limousines of the Waverly Municipal Code of Ordinances.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I read through these things that we're repealing this afternoon, and none of them are true anymore. The state has taken over regulating taxis and limousines. So it's about 5 pages of code that we can get rid of because it serves no purpose at all. And there you go. There's some smaller government for you. Let's clean up a chapter of code. Any other discussion? You appear ready to vote? Carla, can you give us a vote?
Rathe?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Drenkow?
Yes.
That was unanimous, thank you. We're at item 2, second reading of ordinance 1143. This is an ordinance amending subsection 59 to section 105.4.10 of chapter 105 of the Waverly Municipal Code of Ordinances. This has to do with parking. So, do I have a motion?
I'll move the approval of the second reading of ordinance 1143, an ordinance amending subsection 59 to section 105.4.10 of chapter 105 of the Waverly Municipal Code of Ordinances.
Second.
Thank you. So, you've got this in front of you. This is only the second reading. Any discussion? None? That's a roll call vote. Carla, can you help us out?
Meyers,
Yes.
Kangas,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Drenkow,
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
We'll turn to item 3, and that passed unanimously. Resolution 2477, a resolution accepting the library exterior repairs project as complete and approving the pay estimate number 1 as the final pay request. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-77, a resolution accepting the library exterior repairs project as complete and approving pay estimate number 1 in the amount of $14,000 as the final pay request.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? And I would note that Director Meyers is with us if you have any questions.
I just want to compliment Sarah and the contractors that worked out there, probably not you personally, but the contractors that were out there. The new addition blends in very nicely with the original building.
Any other discussion? This is a roll call vote. Carla?
Kangas,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Drenkow,
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Meyers.
Yes.
That was unanimous, thank you. Item 4 is Resolution 24-78, a resolution approving dedication of the south portion of the Waverly Community Sharing Gardens to Bill Deckard. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-78, a resolution approving dedication of the south portion of the Waverly Community Sharing Gardens to Bill Deckard to be recognized by a sign at cost not to exceed $300.
Thank you, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'd call upon Garrett, our Director of Leisure Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to mention, the information's all there in the agenda memo, but Bill Deckard was a volunteer at the Community Sharing Gardens for the last very many years. We estimate that he put in about 3,000 volunteer hours, and I know every time I drove by the garden during the day, he was there. And I'm sure if any of you drove by the gardens during the day, he was there, watering, weeding, doing whatever, whatever needed to be done. So we just, really thought this would be a nice dedication with the approval of council. So, thank you.
Any discussion or questions, council? You have a motion and a second in front of you. Are you prepared to vote? Carla?
Jones,
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Meyers.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
That passed unanimously. We're on item number 5, which is Resolution 2479. This is a resolution dedicating certain parcels that are presently owned by the City of Waverly, which shall hereby be dedicated as additional street right-of-way of the City of Waverly, Bremer County, Iowa. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-79, a resolution dedicating certain parcels that are presently owned by the City of Waverly, which shall hereby be dedicated as additional street right-of-way of the City of Waverly, Bremer County, Iowa, described in the resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
As it's often said, the city giveth and the city taketh away. So, this is city land that we're putting out there as we're taking right-of-way. This is out by the Technology Center, Technology Road. Any discussion?
And on Lover's Lane, too.
And on Lover's Lane. None? You appear ready to vote, Carla?
Drenkow.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Meyers.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
That passed unanimously, which brings us to item number 6. This is Resolution 2480. This is a resolution setting a bid letting date and setting a public hearing for the all-inclusive playground, construction and installation of playground equipment. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 2480, a resolution setting a bid letting date for May 9th, 2024, and setting a public hearing for May 20th, 2024, at 7 PM in the City Council chambers for the review of the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost of construction and installation of the all-inclusive playground.
Second?
Thank you. This is a really nice playground. You've seen pictures, and it's all-inclusive, which is the best thing about it. The second best thing is there's not much tax money going into this. This is mostly gifts. Discussion? None? Okay, we appear ready to vote. Carla?
Rathe?
Yes.
Meyers?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
And Drenkow?
Yes.
That passed unanimously. Item number 7 then is Resolution 24, approving an acquisition plat of survey for additional right-of-way on the north side of 10th Avenue Southwest between Heritage Way and 20th Street Northwest, Waverly, Iowa, and receipt of deed of dedication. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-66, a resolution approving an acquisition plat of survey for additional right-of-way on the north side of 10th Avenue Southwest between Heritage Way, Highway 3, and 20th Street Northwest, Waverly, Iowa, and receipt of deed of dedication.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Bill, why are we doing this?
So it turns out that we only owned about a third of that. The street was actually on property that is owned by the Meyer Hansen LLC. We deeded it to them in 93, I think, and it was done, a very complicated thing because there used to be a railroad track and 2 streets and all kinds of things occurring here. Is if you look on the bottom right of that photograph, where the dark green is, that's where the section line, and that's where the old road was, and we owned about half of that. So there was a big chunk that we didn't have correctly deeded to the city for right-of-way. The Droppy family was very, very good to work with. They understood what happened and were willing to sign us a deed, so we already have the deed ready to be recorded when the plat's approved.
Thank you for the explanation. Any other questions or discussion, council?
We probably would have been in trouble if they hadn't been cooperative.
Yeah.
Well, we could have done it that way too, but
It would take
sometimes you have to
longer
do
and
that.
more pain, yeah.
Yeah, but they were good about it, very good about it.
Well, good. Thank you to the Droppy family. Any other discussion? Are you ready to vote? Carla?
Rathe?
Yes.
Meyers?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Drenkow?
Yes.
That passed unanimously, which will take us to item number 8, Resolution 2481. Now, this is a resolution approving a contract and certificate of insurance for cemetery monument repair from Mayman Monument Sales of Waverly, Iowa, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 2481, a resolution approving a contract and certificate of insurance for cemetery monument repair from Mayman Monument Sales of Waverly, Iowa, as provided in the contract for cemetery repair services, and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on cemetery repair. Is there any more discussion?
Hey, just a real quick question about the fees here, because it's listed as, I'm sorry, this is over a 4-year period? Is that, okay.
Yes, sir.
Never mind.
Multi-year. We've really not had a lot of success getting other individuals to bid. We had a very good company once. The company we just recently had was not very good, but they came back and corrected their issues we pointed out. Craig Mayman has done outstanding work for us, and we figured it'd be good to leverage that work as long as he's willing to continue to do it going forward and just lock this down so we're getting close to finish.
Right.
I had a question on the dates, just to make sure, under 2, are those dates correct? Between the ending of the fiscal year, when the work has to be done, and when it's agreed upon? Just, it seemed confusing to me, I wasn't quite sure.
Where is that at, Brian?
Oh, for the
The
fiscal year.
2A, B, and C, and D, under the contract. First is scope of work and then time of completion.
So does it mean that the work's going to be completed just prior to the end of that fiscal year?
That's correct, yes. So,
So he'll start working on the 2024 ones now
correct.
and get them done by the 17th of June? Is that the- is that
That's
what that means?
correct.
Okay.
And then, once fiscal year 2025 starts, basically what it's saying is, we don't mind if he does them in the fall or if he does them in the spring, as long as they're done by June 17th of the fiscal year, so that we can have everything in and accounted for before the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you for the clarification. That makes sense.
Anything else? You appear ready to vote? Carla?
Rathe?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Drenkow?
Yes.
That passed unanimously, which takes us to item number 9. We are now at Resolution 2482. This is a resolution approving a proposal to clean and inspect the exterior of the north and the east water towers from National Wash Authority. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move approval of Resolution 2482, a resolution approving a proposal to clean and inspect the exterior of the north and east water towers from National Wash Authority for the total quoted price of $17,000.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? Director of Public Works, Justin, can't you just hose these off? What's the deal here? Why are we spending $17,000?
Every 5 years it's recommended to do this. All it does is basically get the mildew and the black stuff on the bottom sides of them. And if you read through the proposal, they use a soft wash. It's not even really high pressure power washing to kill this and to remove this material. With Nestle in town, it does add a different layer. So ours is significantly worse than sometimes because of the stuff in the air.
So we have dirt and mildew and chocolate.
They said it smells like it occasionally when they're power washing it off. Because it's in the air, it absorbs it, Yes,
So-
and this is the north and east towers, not the west one that we're working on.
So not the Pizza Hut tower, the other two.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, discussion? You appear ready to vote, Carla?
Myers?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Drenkow?
Yes.
Rathe?
Yes.
That passed unanimously, taking us to number 10. This is Resolution 24-83, a resolution approving the final pay request and accepting the Rolling Hills Water Loop project as complete. Is there a motion to approve?
I would move approval of Resolution 2483, a resolution approving final pay request in the amount of $55,368 and accepting the Rolling Hills Water Loop project as complete.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Director of Public Works, why is it important to have loopy water?
This area has been a lot of dead ends. So this is the second or third project we've done in this area, I guess, where the water can be backfed different directions if there's an issue, which causes staff to shut down. The fair disconnected the other day and we had an issue out there that was already used. So that was 3 days after the bacteria sample came back good. So it already benefited us in having this done.
Does this also impact water pressure?
It'll help with flow. Pressure is pretty much the same, but it'll help with flow for fire flow out that way. ISO comes in every so many years and looks at our flow ratings. This will help with that as well, and that in turn affects our insurance rates and everything else.
Excellent. Any other questions, discussion? Are you ready to vote? Carla?
Kangas?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Drenkow?
Yes.
Rathe?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
That passed unanimously, thank you. That takes us to number 11. Friends, this is Resolution 2484, directing the advertisement for sale of $1,765,000 in general obligation bonds, Series 2024, and approving electronic bidding procedures and official statement. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 2484, directing the advertisement for sale of $1,765,000 general obligation bonds, Series 2024, and approving the electronic bidding procedures and official statement.
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
This is for the fuel tanks and the bridges.
All of it. All of it. So the official statement, you should maybe read it. I've read it. It's very interesting. I have to lie and tell you that. The bulk of it is actually the fiscal 23 audited financials, so official statements commonly have the most recent audited financials placed into them so that whoever's investing or looking to buy bonds from us can see how we're doing. So Moody's, Val and I will have that call on Wednesday. We will sell them on the 20th in the afternoon, and you'll, that night, come back and actually award the bids as they come in. So that'll be the end of the process. Then sometime in June, the money will arrive and we'll be complete with our bond sale. But this will give anybody wanting to invest from all over the country the chance to look at us and see what they look like for the 10-year bonds.
Okay. Any other questions?
The procedure for this is that, generally speaking, an investment company or bank of some kind purchases the entire bond issue, and then they resell it to retail customers or other investors. So it's not like we have 175 people that come in and buy $10,000 worth of bonds each. I mean, that's not our procedure. We sell it to an investment company, we get our money from the investment company, and then they resell it to the general public or whoever.
That's correct. Since these are below $10 million for the calendar year, they're called BQ bonds or bank qualified, so banks actually have a little bit of a benefit in doing this. So oftentimes, you may not see a local bank purchase these, but a much larger bank will contact and partner with a local bank to then distribute these accordingly. There have been times in the past, the bonds have already been resold before the bids were in, and sometimes they don't win, and that's a whole nother problem for them to deal with, but that does happen. They're so aggressive in how they do it that they've been resold in smaller pieces and portions, and then eventually does get to the general public to possibly own municipal bonds through those corporations. So it is quite a process. I've always been fascinated by it. It's one of my favorite parts of the financial piece of government is how that works and how it goes. Because you literally can go and buy a piece of debt from City of Waverly if you go through the right channels.
For clarification to the public, am I correct in stating that we're able to do this comfortably because other debts we've had have dropped off?
Correct. We build what capacity has to be there. As we talked about before, you have a legal obligation of not borrowing any more than 5% of the total value of the City of Waverly. The one positive thing of the increase in appropriation evaluations this year, even though they could utilize it, it still goes against our debt limits, was then increase the amount that we can go ahead and borrow comfortably. And so we are aggressive in our borrowing and much more aggressive in our payoffs, which is what Moody's likes. At this point in time, all of our bonds, except the SRF loan, are paid off in 10 years or less, so you're paying off large portions of debt every single year, which allows you to continue to put debt on without increasing levies, things of that nature, making huge spikes or drops in your bond, your debt capacity. So we have quite a bit of capacity yet. Depending on how the projects come out in the election this fall, we will need that capacity. And that is something we're working on, and you'll have a much larger decision later this year as to how it's gonna look when we figure out cost estimates. But this is that first process that'll cover those 3 trail bridges and the fueling station, and I think we'll get extremely good rates on this, because it's small enough for a lot of banks to have interest in it, and I just think it's gonna be a very good effort.
Any more questions? Are you ready to vote? Carla?
Jones.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Meyers.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
That was unanimous and passes, taking us to number 12. Resolution 2485, a resolution approving a 3-year contract between the City of Waverly and Local Union 288, City Union International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Can I have a motion?
I will move approval of Resolution 24-85, a resolution approving a 3-year contract between the City of Waverly and Local Union 288, City Unit International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
Thank you. Is there a second? Yep, thank you. Any more discussion or questions of any kind?
I had a question about whether for instance, with the grievance procedure, does this match what other employees are doing? That, I know we redid our employee manual in the
Right.
past, and is this similar?
I think the overall process is, I don't think it goes to a full arbitration at the
Yeah.
end kind of thing with
But
you
the
and
other-
that. But for the most part, it is similar.
Yeah.
It may vary slightly in the steps involved, but the progression as it moves forward is similar.
Okay.
And this is a 3-year contract, so we will not be renegotiating until, well, fiscal 27, 28.
Alrighty, you appear ready to vote? Carla?
Drenkow.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Meyers.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Thank you. That passed unanimously. That brings us to item J, reports from boards and commissions. They are in front of you and in front of the public. Unless there's any discussion, we'll move to item K, staff updates.
Bulky item pickup week was a big success this year. 105 orders, 278 items were picked up. Almost $1,700 of item fees were collected, and that's quite a bit when you consider a lot of these items are $3 a piece. And then $2,600 of trip fees were waived. That's what we normally charge to do special pickup. So it was a lot of people utilized it. Weather wasn't the greatest. That's when rain started, but we're looking at possibly doing another one in the fall, just to try to help with them coming out to public services.
All right, Art Walk has come and gone, so got off to a little bit of a rocky start with rain in the morning, but ended up being a fairly nice day and still was well attended, so good news there. This coming Wednesday, we are having a tree planting with middle schoolers. We're going to have one group out at Northridge Northridge Elementary, and they're going to be planting about 30 trees out there. Those 30 trees were all privately donated to make that happen out there. And then we have another group that'll be over at Champions Ridge. Champions Ridge.
Wow.
Been a long day, guys. At Cedar River Park. We've got about 18 to 20 trees out there, and this is phase 4 of the tree planting out there. This phase was made possible for volunteers from Trees Forever working at the concession stand last fall, and then also a donation from hospital employees, and then a match from Trees Forever. So again, 18 to 20 trees out there. Bids for the inclusive playground will be coming in on Thursday, so we're obviously hoping for good numbers there. The play equipment has been ordered and should be here sometime towards the end of August. This coming Saturday, we have the community sharing gardens planting. That's going to be from 8 o'clock until 10 o'clock. And then we're going to have the dedication for Bill Deckard at 9 o'clock. So anyone who's interested in helping out with that or coming out for the dedication, that'll be this Saturday. Then the historic preservation is also going to be at the cemetery with the program from 10 to noon. You'll be able to tour the cemetery office, the buildings out there, and then there will be a presentation at 10:30. I think that's all I've got.
That's all we have tonight, sir.
Thank you. Let's turn then into city council comments, and let's start with Councilperson Rathe.
I'll just put in a second plug for helping out at the community garden. You do not have to know anything about gardening to come and help out, so.
Councilperson Drenkow.
Well, we were just discussing here with the water towers, the effect of chocolate dust on the water towers. I just wanted to say that my wife and I lived in another small town in Iowa that I'm not going to mention where it was, but they had a very large hog processing plant. And I can tell you right now that smelling chocolate in the air in the fall is so much better than what we normally smelled every day in that town from the hog processing plant. So I'm willing to put up with washing the water tower every now and then for that smell, so.
Excellent. Councilperson Jones.
I would say, don't forget to tell those close to you that you love them. We take people for granted. My daughter was in a car wreck Friday. She was okay. But just remember to tell those in your life that you love them.
Thank you. Councilperson Meyers.
Nothing for me.
Mayor Pro Tem Kangas.
Well, I guess maybe a little self-serving to note that it's Teacher Recognition, Teacher Appreciation Week.
Fair enough.
But I would like to note my appreciation for a long-serving teacher in the Waverly District who is retiring at the end of this school year. Taught my daughter and lots of other people's children in the city over the years. So.
Thank you. Yes, my wife, she's finishing her 22nd year at Waverly Shell Rock, and mixed feelings about giving it up. Not real mixed, but a little bit. Point out what an awesome weekend we had here. I went to the pancake breakfast with the fire station, and the place, when I was there, was packed. There was a long line, which I take to mean that our citizens support our firefighters, and they're there to have their backs. Then I went over to the downtown businesses, because the chamber had a thing going on for visiting, and there were people walking up and down, doing things really great. We have a really nice new pet store in town I accidentally discovered. Really nice stuff. Then I went over to the art walk and volunteered for a while, and it was raining when I got there, but by noon, the rain was done and the place was full. You could hardly walk around. And there's also a big soccer thing, tournament and try-by-night. All of those things take a whole bunch of volunteers. So hundreds of Waverly people volunteered this weekend to show hospitality and to make all these events and fundraisers work. So I want to say again, thank you to all the people of Waverly who give so much of themselves to make this town the beautiful place it is. And I'd say just, again, Waverly, let's talk to the guest councilperson, Brady. Do you have any comments, sir?
I do not. I just want to thank everybody for allowing me to participate today. Found it pretty interesting. It's nice to see all the work the city's doing to make Waverly home for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Waverly, be kind. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move that we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.